Hey guys, and welcome to another Football Manager video. We're checking back in with my Pentagon challenge today. For those who don't know, a Pentagon involves trying to win every continent's Champions League. I've already won the Champions League in Asia, and then it's only taken one season to make Pachuca the best team in Mexico and win the CONCACAF Champions League. Now it's time for a bigger challenge. The Copa Libertadores awaits us. You see, Brazilian teams always win in the Copa Libertadores, and so I thought I need to get a job in Brazil. It's a pretty big jump from Mexico to Brazil with my new 4-star reputation, courtesy of winning the CONCACAF Champions League and also some pretty decent performances in the World Club Championship, not least little Pachuca of Mexico stuffing Juventus 3-0. I found myself in possession of a job offer from Gremio, the mighty Gremio, the club of Ronaldinho no less. And so we find ourselves with exactly the same problem that Pachuca of Mexico had when we began to manage them. No strategy, too many players, 76 players in the squad, but no identity, no clarity around tactics. It's not obvious what this squad was recruited for. So it's the same strategy as it was in Mexico. 76 players, too many. We're going to find 2 per position that make the most sense right now. We're going to identify the decent under 18s, and then everyone else in the middle, we just need to get off the wage bill and turn into cash. Then once we've got a good handle on what gaps to fill or what we think a Copa Libertadores final level player looks like, we'll start signing some. Hopefully, we're using some of the funding we raised from the middle guys that we've identified we don't need. So let's go through the squad now and pick out the guys we do like. Here's the tactic, and it's the same one I've been using throughout this Pentagon. We have a sweeper keeper on defend, 3 ball-playing defenders at the back, wing-backs on support, 2 segundo volantes on attack, and then 3 advanced forwards on attack. And as always, I use the scoring system app that I've developed together with Jason and Harrison to look at my squad. You can see the Gremio players are here in the app, and I've sorted it by sweeper keeper on defend. If you haven't seen this app before and you're looking at this and thinking, what the hell is this? Then have a look at the rest of the videos on my channel, and there's a link to the app in the description. It's easy to use, and you can use it to rank and benchmark Football Manager players. So the app tells me that my best goalkeeper with a score of 13.6 is this guy, Breno. I don't like Breno's agility of 13. We'll start off with Breno and look to replace him with somebody who's going to be better for us at Copa Libertadores knockout stage level later on. Right now to wing back on support, and we get a few curveballs from the scoring system. You see the highest score here, 13.5, is this guy, Lagacha. So it says that this guy is the best wing back in our squad. It says he's got a very strong right foot, so you think, okay, he could be a right wing back. But it says the guy isn't actually a right-sided wing back today. He is a left midfielder that also can play as an attacking midfielder on the right or the left. And he's got strength 1. So that's not great. But it does say he's the best wing back in the squad. So I think we go with that. We're not going to go with the next couple of guys because this guy is actually a centre back and this guy is actually a central midfielder. So we'll leave those 2 because they'll go in other positions in a minute. Then if we continue down the squad, then we've got a left wing back here, Borges. He unfortunately has got relatively low work rate. I'm looking for 14 really, I think now, here in the Serie A in Brazil for a wing back. But we can make do with Borges and he can be our backup. Similarly, this guy, Heitor, who again doesn't massively impress on work rate, is a decent right-sided wing back and he can be depth behind Lagacha. I'm more impressed with this guy, Duarte, from Uruguay. He has got model citizen personality, he's got solid work rate, and although he's got a slightly lower score as a wing back, he can be our left-footed wing back right out of the gate. That leaves us with 2 per position, which means guys like this guy, Garcia, who has relatively low work rate, will simply have to go into that middle tier of players I don't really know what to do with, and are probably best playing for another club. So here's Lagacha, the guy we're going to try to convert to be our starting right-sided wing-back. And as you can see, to try and really confuse you and make it as difficult to understand what's going on as possible, in this little graphic I've superimposed here, I've put the right hand of wing-backs on the left-hand side. Here, when you look at Lagash, you can see that impressive strength 1 in all its glory. What you can also see is that he's got 15 corners, and so he's going to be something of a set piece threat, which of course any FM player likes very, very much. Hightor, who we're going to keep in this squad as a backup, is a more conventional wing back and looks pretty good to me as well. Duarte is going to play as our left wing back. Looks solid to me, but I really do not like that 12 work rate, and we're going to work on his training to try and get that endurance up. And then here's our depth guy at left wing back, who looks fine until his contract expires at the end of this season. At centre back, 3 guys stand out over all the others. This top guy on the list, Dilfacio, we're going to put in midfield. Now, I don't like that all 3 of these guys are 6'1", and I can't see a centre back in this squad that's got the kind of commanding aerial presence that I like to look for. But the jumping reach in all 3 of these at 15 is good enough. We've got Almeida, who can play on the left, and then the other 2 guys will share the middle and the right-hand side. Seeing as Gonzalez has got more pace, we'll put him on the right and put Vitao down the middle. So looking at this back 3, this guy Keiki looks pretty good to me. I think he is probably the best of these defenders. 28, Brazilian, sensible contract. It says leading Serie A. I don't know whether to believe that or not. Good acceleration, good pace, good jumping reach, decent everything else. Looks good to me, absolutely fine by me, and will probably still be in the team by the time we're contending for the Copa Libertadores. This guy, Vitao, not so great, but good enough, I think. 33 years old, just about made the Brazilian team at some point in his career. Come back from a long stint in the Premier League where he couldn't get in the team at Arsenal. He's fine. He's not thrilling. I think by the time we've got this team a little bit more developed, he might be depth, but he's worth keeping around, even though he's quite expensive, I would say. And then this guy Gonzalez, not quite so interesting. He's not Brazilian. By the way, you can have 7 foreign players in a matchday squad in the Brazilian Serie A. So you do want players that are not Brazilian to be a bit better than this guy, really. But he's got good acceleration, good pace, pretty good jumping reach, good tackling, good positioning. He looks like a pretty good central defender to me and makes our team, at least for now. What we don't have is any depth in these positions at all. I'd like to see at least 1 more left-sided and 1 more right-sided centre-back come into the team, which is not going to be easy because it's the end of July and the transfer window closes in, I think, 3 days' time. Defensive midfielder, or as the game calls it, Secundo Volante on attack, is actually a bit more straightforward. So it won't be Almeida because he's in our centre-back group. It will be this guy, Nardoni, who's got decent-ish work rate. He's got decent speed and appears at the top of this list. Here's Nardoni in game, and that work rate of 12 is not exactly jumping out to me. But at least to begin with, this is a decent player. And we can't help but notice that his average rating has been pretty good in this first part of the season for Gremio so far. And I should, of course, have shown you the table earlier. Here it is. There's Gremio, 16th place. Not doing great, underperforming expectations, underperforming resources. Here are those resources. Gremio are one of 6 teams. They're a step behind Flamengo, but they're all about the same as each other. And bear in mind, the first 7 clubs in Brazil go on to contest the next year's Copa Libertadores, and with more than the last 10 years worth of Copa Libertadores coming from those clubs. Basically, if you're in these 7 clubs, you've got a chance of winning it, which means that as long as Gremio gets better run than it is now, we should have a decent chance. Back to the central midfielders, and we won't be going with Bruno G, who we've got in this save, age 35, he's gone back to Brazil, and he's playing at Gremio. He's earning a nice 110,000 a week, and he's lost his pace. We'll go instead for this guy, Gilfracio, down here, who's got some degree of decent work rate. He's got better pace and is probably a better option right now. Here's Bruno G, and although he's got fantastic mentals and still pretty good technicals, I just don't want these physicals going in anywhere near our starting 11. So if we can find a way to sell him, it would be great. I'm trying to do that already, and we've got some interest from clubs at the bottom end of the Premier League in England. Here's the guy that we will go with, Gilfracio. I don't like work rate 13 on my central midfielders. Neither of my central midfielders have got fantastic work rate, but the scouts tell me this guy is a star Serie A level player. He's youngish, he's Brazilian. It makes sense to put him in he could be one of our better players. When you compare him to Bruno G, I guess he's not so good at some stuff, but he is much more well-rounded, and that is what we are looking for. Scrolling down the Secundo Vantão attack list and looking for somebody useful, I do get as far as this guy. We've got a Brazilian 21-year-old model citizen, can't play defensive midfielder yet, but when you look at him in game, he's got most of the things you're looking for. He's got acceleration, not quite pace. He's got stamina. He's got work rate. The rest of it's pretty decent. He's got consistency. Could improve significantly. 21, model citizen, Brazilian, signed to a decently long contract. This is a guy that we're certainly going to put in the squad and try to retrain as a defensive midfielder. Then up front, we don't have that much. This guy, Drauzio, is the most interesting. Remember, Lagasha we've put in as our right wing back, even though the game thinks he's a left winger with one strength. Don't worry about that for a minute. Drauzio, he's our best scorer on here, but he's got speed 12.5. It's not that exciting. I don't like acceleration 12 and pace 13 on my centre forward, but he has got the other stuff I'd like to see. There's finishing, composure, off the ball. He's got enough jumping reach to lead the line. This guy's going in as our centre forward. And the 5-star potential doesn't hurt either. Beyond that, it's hard to get excited by a 33-year-old Tete with relatively low pace. Without much quality here, we might see if we can look for players. But one of the things we will do is try to play young, valuable players, at least give them minutes, see if they improve. And if they don't, we'll see if we can develop some assets for sale. So into that bucket goes this guy, Giovanni, 13.5. This guy, Rafael Almenara, 13.4. Neither of these got much pace. Giovanni 12, Almenara 11.5. And then scrolling down, I see this guy, Neto, 21, Brazilian, a winger, not a forward. Only 12.8 for this, but decent pace and probably a better player than some of these other guys. I think we're going to go with Giovanni on the left and Neto on the right. Giovanni's got the very strong left foot. He's only got acceleration 11, which I don't like, and pace 13, but the rest of his stuff looks pretty good. He's 21 with some potential ability that maybe we can train into a bit more quickness. Neto is quicker. We'll play him on the right. He's got acceleration and pace. He just lacks composure and isn't great off the ball. So isn't really the kind of guy we want in the box trying to finish for us. But on the right-hand side of our front three, Neto may develop into a player who can cross in for the other guys. Almenara, the other forward that looks fairly interesting. The scouts say is leading Serie A, but I say is 12 acceleration, 11 pace. We'll give him a few minutes, and I would expect the first opportunity we'll sell him and try to get that 59,000 a week off the wage bill. All right, I've just put all the things I just said into this squad view. Here is the Gremio team. These are 11 positions in my tactic. Here's an attempt at trying to dig out a starter and a reserve with their number from the scoring system in for the relevant positions they play. We've got a few areas where I think we target. If we could find some decent centre backs to provide depth, that would be helpful. And if we could find a forward with a bit of pace, that would really make up for the lack of pace in the forwards we have at the moment. When I benchmark it against Flamengo, who are the best resource club in Brazil and the club that most recently has most often won the Copa Libertadores, I'm looking for players the scoring system brings out in the sort of high 13s, 14s range. I'm not sure we're going to be able to sign any of those right now. I think it's probably something we'll need to do in the future. We're 3 days before the end of a transfer window, and this is my first day in the club. So I think we're just going to look for a bit of depth if we can. And once we've got some sort of depth, we will try and make it to the end of the season, see how these players have got on, and then we'll compare ourselves again against the clubs in the Copa Libertadores and try and make improvements. So having done all that, I'm left with a squad that's got 21 players in it. And then when I go to the reserve squad, this really is the unhappy campers. Sorted by wage, we've got this guy Tete at 76,000 a week, who, according to the agent at least, we might find that we get an offer before the deadline. There's another guy down here called David Martinez that we've also been told we're likely to receive an offer for. Looks pretty decent actually, this guy, but I'd rather have the money than the player, and then see if I can go and find a young Brazilian, this guy's not Brazilian, quick forward who can be at least depth and maybe get some minutes in our slow forward line. As for the rest of these guys, we've got some contracts that are going to run out at the end of the season, And then we've got about 15, 20 guys there that we're just going to need to try and sell down, realize the proceeds, and then reinvest that into that first team squad once we know a bit more clearly than we do now what improvements we are trying to make. All right, so a couple of days have passed. We're now at the transfer deadline. I'll just take you through what I did. So I've signed, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4 players in the 3 days before the deadline. And then I've sold a few players, but nobody for any significant fees. So just to go through the signings. So Diego is the fast forward I was looking for. Looks pretty good. Good acceleration, good pace, good composure, good finishing, good off the ball. Young, Brazilian, inexpensive, long-term contract, good potential ability. Looks like exactly what I was looking for. To begin with, I think comes off the bench, but I would have imagined will quickly become a player that plays for us fairly often. Then I'll just look at the 2 defenders that we signed. This guy is a centre-back, 6'5", left-footed. I actually had him earlier in this save at Yokohama when I was there, and he was fine. He was on loan then from Flamengo, now signed on a permanent deal for 2 million. Hasn't really kicked on, might never kick on, but is good enough to play someone at 6'5", 22 years old. Does have the perfectionist personality, so has got some chance of kicking on. Don't really like the hidden ratings. Not perfect, but decent depth, and left-footed, so can play in the middle or on the left of our back 3. Then this guy, Almeida, who's got very strong left and right foot, which is rare to see, is simply depth in the position, brought in on loan in a hurry before the deadline. Isn't going to be amazing for us, but in case we need additional depth. The surprise transfer that I managed to do before the window is here. I noticed that Andre, who in the game has been playing in the Premier League and has got 50 caps for Brazil, and is a really promising Segundo Volante attack for us, defensive midfielder. He was in the Brazilian national team and was the only player in the Brazilian national team that didn't have a club. For whatever reason, he'd just been released by Newcastle. And so I brought him in on trial and bid as best I could, which is 54,000 a week, and got him, which is pretty good. There were other offers, but he accepted our offer. This player looks really good for Brazilian League and is the first example of bringing in a player that I think will be in our team when eventually we get, hopefully all being well, to the Copa Libertadores final. He's on a 2-year deal. It's a 1 year with 1 year extension, and this looks like an absolutely fantastic signing for us. And when you compare Andre against Nardoni, who's the player I was expecting to be playing on the right-hand side of our central midfield, it's clearly an upgrade. So I've added to this table here in yellow the players I've brought in. That means we've got decent depth. I think every position's got decent coverage. We haven't got too many players in the squad. It's all organised in the way that I hoped it would. And then we've got a bunch of sales that may or may not go through. We've got an offer for Bruno G and he's 100,000 a week wages. We've got an offer for Tete and he's 75,000 or whatever it was wages. It may well be that we get a few of these guys off the wage bill. We're going to have to see. All right, so let's see how good these guys look on the pitch. So this is a game against Ceará, which is what CEA stands for. Yes, I did try to do the real name fix on this save, and no, I didn't manage to do it right. So sorry about that. But Ceará, which I'm sure I haven't pronounced right, Gremio in blue. We're giving a debut to Andre in midfield. Other than that, the other signings are on the bench for this first game of the season. But we are playing Lagarto with his strength 1 and a left winger at right wing back. So we'll see how that goes. He's in there in the middle of that set piece with strength 1. I'm not sure. Oh dear, that wasn't quite so. Didn't go quite so well. It says it was Lagarto's missed header that led to the goal. That's what happens when you got strength 1. Yeah, this experiment might not last that long. I think we can see for that first half it's going to be a little bit more challenging this time round than how we've got on in Mexico and in Japan. This is a tougher challenge, I think, than those ones. But we're in decent shape, I think. I don't think we'll get relegated, but really it's all about trying to get in mid-table, I think, for the remainder of this season. I think the experiment with the right wing back is about to end. Get a bit more conventional and put this guy Hightour on at right wing back. And immediately here come Gremio. And immediately the new wing back straight in with a cross and a yeah, this has been pretty drab. The XG is good. I'm sure we're set up reasonably well, but it's not like as if we're going to come in and just start blowing people away because we're slightly better organised than we were. This is a drab defeat, I think, and we're going to have to just keep grinding on. Oh, last minute set piece. Let's see if this does us. Oh, there we go. Save the point, an own goal, it says. Well, there we go. I'm not sure. I know we did quite well on the XG, but I'm not sure we've done enormous amounts to earn a point. Anyway, there we go. That's it. I think we'll leave it there for this video. I'm going to continue on to the end of the season with Gremio, and as always with my Pentagon save. If anything else happens that I think is interesting, then I shall come and make a video about it. Thank you for watching this video as always. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I shall see you in the next one.